Hey Bats and Ghouls, welcome to the first YouTube episode of A Goth in an Alcove, and my name is Ian. I'm going to be your host to this channel. I hope every week to bring you new adventures from the goth subculture, whether that be movies, music, fashion, club events, conventions, get-togethers, coffee meetups, or just sitting around here and talking to you guys about what's going on within the goth scene, online and off. I am new to the online scene, I will admit that. I started about a year ago looking around at things, but I am an elder goth. I am 44, so I'm not a stranger to the goth scene. I'm more of a stranger to the online goth scene. I kind of avoided the online dramas that I've seen over the years and just kind of stuck to people in person. Um, that doesn't mean that there isn't a strong, good place for online, but I wanted to maybe help bring some positivity to it. And one thing I've seen on YouTube, despite some of the negativity, there is a great community here of really uplifting, inspiring goth YouTubers, and I was hoping to contribute to that. What brought me to want to do a channel was about a year ago. I was looking for like some good tutorials for doing black eye makeup. I mean, I've been doing it for years, but I was hoping maybe to get some better tips and tricks from the male perspective. And I really only found like one or two videos, and I thought, there's got to be more out here. There's got to be more that I could do. Most of the guys that are on YouTube, there's some really great channels that talk about music. I found one Cold Candy. He does some like festivals and travel type stuff from within the more synth electronic and goth subculture side of it over in Europe, and I thought that was really cool. And then there's Aurelio Voltaire, who does like everything that Voltaire does, and I thought, what about the average goth guy? Like there doesn't seem to be a lot of that out there. It seemed to be mainly like fashion halls and a lot of makeup tutorials, which is great, and that's fine for the female perspective. But there wasn't a lot for guys, and I thought, what about something that could be inclusive to both genders or all genders? So, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start my first episode out with the goth tag, and then at the end of it, what I want to do in every episode is I want to do a CD review or an album review or just an artist review on goth music, because what's been going around, as we all know, goth music is the backbone of what the goth subculture is about, and I just felt like I should kind of contribute more to that and offer my perspectives on it. So here we go. I'm going to do the goth tag first, and we'll go from there. And then at the end, like I said, I will do the CD review. So, all right. Question number 1 for the goth tag. How long have you been goth? I have been identifying myself as goth since early to mid 90s. When I was in high school, so that's like 89 to 93, the title goth didn't really exist. You were just like alternative, and that was it. If the term goth was around, it certainly wasn't one that was in my vernacular growing up, and I didn't know anybody that used that term either. And I want to say it was probably like my late teens, early 20s that the term goth was used. So strictly speaking from the term goth, we'll say like, I don't know, like 93, 94. How were you introduced to goth? It's such a weird way to go about how I was introduced to it. It really started with an aunt who's about 4 years older than me, and she listened to a lot of new wave when I was a kid growing up. So like, if I was 8 or 9, she was like 12, 13. So she was listening to new wave, Adam Ant, Culture Club, Duran Duran, Bow Wow Wow, a lot of that type of music. And then as she got into high school, she was listening to some darker stuff. By the time she got to college and I was in high school, she was listening to a lot of college radio, which was playing a lot of goth. I heard it, I liked it, and it kind of grew from there. So that was how I was introduced to it. 3. What gothic subgenre would you put yourself in? I don't have one. I like goth rock. I like dark wave. I like industrial. I like ethereal. I like cold wave. Um, so I don't have a specific subgenre of the music that I listen to. I don't have a certain style that I listen to. I've had friends describe my style as like 80s goth, trad goth, but I don't see that at all. And I've had friends say that I'm a rivet head. I've had friends tell me that I'm new romantic. I've had friends tell me that I have more of a romantic look side to me sometimes. So my fashion style kind of changes and variates. All right, so here we are, first video, and I already realized I made a mistake as I'm editing this, that in my nerves I had not put in question number 4, which is a very controversial one in the goth YouTube online community, and even on online forums, and that is, what do I feel the basis of the goth subculture is? I believe that the best description that I could put, and I think it was Gothic Soulflower who may have put it this way, is that goth is like a tree. And this tree, the trunk of this tree, the foundation of this tree is the music. I do believe that the music is integral to what goth is all about. The music came first, and then came everything else in the subculture after that. So if you have your tree, which is the music, and then you have all these branches with flowers and leaves on it, that would be your fashion, your jewelry, your books, your movies, your comics, your home decor. Like, all of that stuff comes after, but at the basis is still the music, the trunk. That's what goth is to me. So if you were to ask me the other way, I saw this in the Cemetery Confessions video. They talked about it as well. I think there's 4 elements to be goth or part of the goth subculture. That is, A, appreciation of the music. You don't have to like all of it, but you need to have an appreciation of some of it. I think the fashion, you don't always have to be 24/7 on in your goth look and attire, but dressing goth kind of helps. Gothic culture, as far as like books, movies, the little things on the branches, the jewelry, the home decor, like that kind of goes with it. And then being part of the culture, whether it's online or in person. And as I said at the beginning of this video, I've been mainly in person. I do club nights, meetups, I go to conventions, events, but really being involved in the music part of it, like having an appreciation of goth music, I think is very important. And so I hope I answered that, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but that is my opinion. It is just that, my opinion. Cool. What do you dislike about being goth? There's nothing about the subculture directly that I dislike, and that was question number 6, or 5, by the way. Sorry. So there's nothing directly about the subculture that I dislike. Maybe the online infighting that I'm seeing, but that has nothing to do with the subculture directly, or that has something to do with the music or the fashion or anything, that part of it. I don't like how the outside world views goth. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding there, and I don't know how we as a subculture can change that other than making YouTube videos like this, or some of the other YouTube videos that I've seen out there, and talking with the press and the media more to kind of dispel some of the myths that are surrounding what the subculture is. I think it's gotten a lot better as it's gotten more popularized in the mainstream, but I think that's the one part, is it sounds like a cliche teenager of like, God, nobody understands me, you don't get me, but I think that's the one thing that irks me still to this day about being goth. But beyond that, the subculture, I love it. Like I said, I'm 44 and I'm still here doing it, and still going out and going to clubs and concerts and enjoying the lifestyle and dressing all in black. So question 6, what do your parents think of it? My mother, she never like had an issue with the music at all. She, didn't care. But when I was a teen, she questioned, she didn't really like the dark aesthetics that go with it. And even like into my early 20s. And now she just, by this point, she just accepts it. It's who I am. My father, he was a metalhead back in the 70s. He listens to a lot of, or he did listen to a lot of new wave back in the early 80s as well. And he also likes goth music. So he's like totally cool, totally down with the fact that I'm a goth. Like it's never been an issue. He's never brought it up. He's never said anything one way or the other. Question number 7, eyebrows or no eyebrows? I have eyebrows. Once or twice I've thought about cutting them off. Fleetingly thought about it, but reality is that I just don't think that I would look right with no eyebrows, so I have opted to keep them. There have been some people that I've seen shave their eyebrows off, and they're either on purpose or they're still learning, don't quite know how to draw them back on. So keep practicing. And then there's people that have beautiful craftsmanship, putting their eyebrows on, and they look great. So I don't really have a strong opinion either way. I just know for me, it's like I think I look better with eyebrows. So number 8, what is your favorite band? I don't have a favorite band, and it's such a hard question. I love 80s goth. I'm wearing a Bauhaus shirt right now. I seen them in concert back in, what was that, 98. I like The Cure. I've seen them in concert. I like Susie and the Banshees, Sisters of Mercy, Southern Death Cult. But then I also like music from the 90s as well a lot, like Rosetta Stone. I'm super curious to see how their new release is that's coming out in like a month. Switchblade Symphony, Mephisto Waltz. And then I also like the newer stuff that's coming out that I guess would be more labeled cold wave, but it has a very 80s dark sound to it that I really love. And that's bands like She Passed Away, another band I'm going to get to see and I want to do a video on in July when they're playing in Tampa. Like Boy Harsher, Lebanon Hanover, so that kind of sound I'm really getting into. Those bands that are been around for a couple years now, and I think that's great. This kind of resurgence in dark wave, and you're hearing it at the clubs more. And I just so I can't pick one band. It's really hard. It's like asking a parent, like, "Oh, who's your favorite child?" Like you just can't, playing favorites it's just not cool. Okay, number 9, your opinion on Marilyn Manson. I feel like this is a trick question. Manson. I don't feel, I never have felt like he belonged in aside from his aesthetics, borrowing from the goth subculture, I don't feel like he musically belongs within the goth category. At best, maybe like industrial metal, but I don't really have a strong opinion of the guy either way. He's a good showman. He just seems like a more updated version of like Kiss or Alice Cooper, but I don't know, he's a good showman. He seems to know his music for what he's playing, like he's competent in that area, but yeah, I'm not a fan. I have like 1 or 2 songs of his in my music library, and that's more of, like I said, that kind of industrial metal sound than anything else. And then number 10, the last question. What were your baby bat days like? Really freaking awkward. Still trying to figure out who I was. The first time I ever shaved my head around, kind of like it is now, except it was bald completely on the sides, and I had dyed my hair black and didn't know any better, so I had this kind of potato head effect going on. fashion, trying to figure it all out, what worked, what didn't, and then like learning the music and learning what was goth, what wasn't. But I gotta say, like as awkward as it was, the goths at that point, who I guess would now be considered, like I said, back in that day, we didn't call ourselves goth, we were just alternative. But those people that were, today we all call goth, that were older than me, that were helping me into the scene, were great. And I'm still friends with them to this day. And they introduced me to all kinds of music and, the different styles and art and movies and books. And I feel very fortunate to have those friends in my life, like I said, even to this day. So as awkward as I was, it's a learning experience. And that's really what life is, no matter what subculture you're part of or not part of. It's all a learning experience, and you can't expect to jump out the gate knowing everything and having everything, the knowledge of the universe imbued upon you at whatever your teenage age is, that you discover some new subculture or fashion, or life is learning. So there you go. So that is my goth tag, and I hope you found it entertaining at the very least. If you found it boring, I understand, but yeah, that's what that was. And then I plan every week to do a new video. I want to take you along the journey to concerts, to outings, to coffee meetups, to maybe some different goth stores, different landmarks. I just really want to take you with me as we check things out and kind of learn together. Again, life is a growing experience. More about the goth subculture. I will be doing fashion. I'm not in a position that I have to worry about, will Killstar or Punk Rave or somebody lip service, will they give me clothing to do a channel for? No, I'm going to buy my own stuff and I'm going to review it honestly. And so there will be points where I do clothing reviews of different things for men's fashion. Same thing with home decor. I'm going to give you honest reviews about those kind of things, and I'm not looking for any kind of sponsorship at all. And if I ever do go down that path, I will certainly make sure that whatever I do, I'm open and upfront and honest about hey, this is a sponsored video. This company donated or paid or whatever the deal is. I want full disclosure. So that being said, that is not an attack against anybody. I'm not agreeing with anybody, but I just want to make it clear from my point of view that if you do see me on this channel doing those kind of things, that's what it is right there. So, all right, let's go ahead and do the very next one, which is my CD review. All right, so here we are now. I'm going to give this another shot because my camera died, battery. It is a video camera, not a cell phone. So I've actually been recording this intro video so many times that the battery died down on this camera, and it has about an hour and a half worth of life. But anyways, I digress, and I'm going to move on to the next portion of my video, which I want to include every time I do one, because I think it's important to do. And that is introducing or talking about a piece of goth music that impacted me in one form or another, or that I think is significant to the goth community as a whole. Today's first talk is going to be about the Cure CD Mixed Up. And why it's significant for me is because prior to everything else in my musical background, the first time I had ever heard The Cure, I didn't really like them as a band. I didn't get it. I didn't get what the whole vibe scene was, but keep in mind I was only 10 years old. So, the second time I was introduced to them again was by an aunt who's just a few years older than me, and I had a mixtape, and on it had the Cure song Killing an Arab. And I thought it was great. I really got into it, and I said, I need to give these guys another chance, because even what was being played on the radio was Love Song, and I still didn't like The Cure that much. But after killing an Arab, I said, you know, I'm going to give it a chance. I was listening to more alternative music at that point, and I joined a record club. So like this is unheard of in this day and age, pretty much pre-YouTube, pre-Napster, pre any kind of online forum to get music. We had record clubs that, you know, like Columbia House was the big one. They would send you a mailer once a month. They would have different bands, different artists on it, and you could join up for like a penny, I think, and it got you like 12 CDs or 12 tapes, actually, because at that point it was cassette tapes. So I bought this, The Cure Mixed Up, 1989. I initially bought this on a cassette tape, and a few years later, when CDs started becoming a big thing, I upgraded to CD. It's a really interesting CD because it took a lot of their older songs and it gave them a mixed up sound, which would have been more up-tempo, synth-based, dance-based, but because that was pretty popular in the late 80s with a lot of bands to do with their stuff. And what's crazy about this is that even though they're adding more electronic elements to this CD, it's still pretty dark. It's all their same songs, but they've just added more synth sound to it. I really like, you know, I play the hell out of this CD to this day. It really spoke to me, and it got me wanting to listen to more goth music. So yeah, that's my kind of my gateway to listening to more and more goth music was this CD. My favorite tracks on it is In Between Days, The Caterpillar, which actually kind of means a little something between my wife and I. Lullaby, I think, is a really great cut, the way they remixed that, even though it's like a 7+ minute remix. They're calling it the extended mix. And then A Forest. Pictures of You, also another good one, though unfortunately, like, it kind of got mainstreamed. It was put into, like, I think a Kodak commercial a few years ago. Might have been, it had something to do with like pictures. The commercial, obviously the song Picture of You is a little bit sadder, but yeah, it's a great CD. I highly recommend at least giving it a listen to. I'm playing a few cuts of it while I'm doing this video. Like I said, it was done in '89. They reissued it, I believe, last year. The initial release of this had another track on it, and I can't remember which one it was, but that was only if you bought it on cassette tape or if you got it on vinyl. And the CD, because of the compression of the CD, they had to cut that track off of it. I'm trying to think anything else significant I can say about the CD. I think they kind of did a sequel to that about a year ago as well, and I think it's called Torn Down, is the sequel to Mixed Up. But again, it's just it's still definitively The Cure, without a doubt, but it's just getting more electronic elements to it than what they've done on some of their other stuff. So I really like it. I highly recommend checking it out, and I apologize for rambling. I'm very new to YouTube, very new to talking in front of a camera like this, and just trying to be myself. So I hope you'll stick around, subscribe, and see what I come up with next as I kind of get more comfortable talking in front of the camera. And yeah, thanks a lot, and as always, stay spooky.